Break the board sports. It's College Hoops Monday on the hardwood. Click that like, hit subscribe. Again, check out all of our content. We break down NFL games, college football, hockey, baseball, college hoops, NBA, everything you need, giving you trends, stats, and analysis. The whole product of this is to give you stuff to help you become a better handicapper and handicap your own games. I will give out some of my picks. Not all, and I will try to give you leans to help you out as much as I can. Again, always feel free to message, ask questions. I try to get to those as soon as possible. Let's hop right into it. Got a good slate here. And again, it's early in college basketball. We're off to a nice run. As far as plays go, we're out to a 6-1 start. As far as leans go, we're out to a 10-3 start. So let's hop right into it now. Again, early in the season, don't be playing a lot on these. Kind of get used to how things are going. I want to touch on St. Joe's at Penn. This one's really interesting. So St. Joe's coach bails. Donahue, the assistant, takes over. Why does that have any meaning? Well, Donahue was the ex-head coach of Penn. Now you also get Fran McCaffrey. Remember him from Iowa? He finds a home at Penn. So now you have this interstate rivalry with Penn and St. Joe's squaring off tonight. Now, Penn comes into this thing 1-2 straight up and 0-2 ATS. St. Joe's 2-1 straight up. When you look at, again, these two teams, and we're just going to go through these conference by conference, kind of get into everything and the handicap of it. But when you look at this for St. Joe's, they returned 2 starters, a rarity. When you're looking at it, used to be one of the good handicaps is how many people had returning starters. Now 2's like the max, and over half of college basketball doesn't have anybody coming back. But they're returning 2 starters, 49% of their minutes come back. But Eric Reynolds, the all-time leading scorer at St. Joe's, he graduates. Zaire Brown, he bolted for Oklahoma. So now they're having to start all over. They did get Deuce Jones Jr. From LaSalle. He comes over. He averaged 12 points a game last year. Again, Fran McCaffrey, he's going to take over for Penn here. Penn obviously want to slow this thing down as much as possible for this game. When you're looking also into the handicap of this one and just trying to get your bearings about you with it, if you look at St. Joe's here over their streak, they're just 1-4 ATS their last 5, but they're 9-4 straight up their last 13. Against Penn, St. Joe's has covered 5 straight games. The over is cashed 10 of the last 13 games St. Joe's has played in. The over is cashed 7 of the last 8 Penn's played in. Now, Penn, hopefully Fran McCaffrey can get this thing turned around. Really hard to do it in Ivy League school. Penn just 3-10 straight up now. St. Joe's laying 5.5. You're over under 163.5. 55% of ticket count and 86% of the handle is going over 163.5. 45% of ticket count, 14% of the handle going to the under. Now, as far as the side goes, 70% of bets, 57% of the handle is laying the 5.5 on the road with the Red Hawks. 30% of ticket count, 43% of the handle is taking the money here with Penn. Now, if you dive into it, we talked about St. Joe's 2-1 straight up, 1-2 is Penn. Last year, these two teams met at Penn, a game St. Joe's won by 17 in that outing. When you look at the points per game so far this season, St. Joe's is averaging 73.3 points per game this year. Penn averaging 92.7. So much more run and gun there since Fran McCaffrey's got there. 78.3 points per game is what St. Joe's is giving up. Penn's giving up 87.3. When I look at this, I'm actually going to lean. Again, I wouldn't go crazy with these. When I say leans, I'm talking about half-unit plays unless I say otherwise. I'm probably going to put a small thing on Penn plus 5.5, kind of lean that way in the interstate rivalry. I'll grab the points there with Penn. Moving on to the next one, Kansas State laying 12.5 to Tulsa in this one. Now, you're over under 161.5. 41% of ticket count, 65% of the handle going to the over 161.5. 59% of ticket count, 35% of the handle going to the under. When you look at K-State, they're getting 61% of bets, but it's only equating to 33% of the handle. 39% of ticket count going to Tulsa, going to 67% of the handle. Now, Tulsa, one of the worst covering teams in college basketball and the worst covering team over the past 3 years. They've really, really struggled to get things right there. Now, Coach Tang of K-State, one of my favorite coaches in college basketball. Tulsa, 5-12 straight up their last 17 on the road, but they are 5-1 straight up in their last 6. 0-5 ATS when they play Big 12 teams. K-State 1-5 ATS their last 6, 4-1 straight up their last 5. But they're 8-2 straight up their last 10 games at home is K-State. Both of these teams come in 3-0. K-State 1-2 ATS, Tulsa 1-1. If you look at it, these two teams haven't played since 2019, so really got to throw the stats out the window there. Tulsa, Oral Roberts got a 1-point win. Rhode Island beat them by 17. Then they had a Division II school in there. Kansas State, they beat Cal by 3, beat Bellarmine by 27, beat UNC Greensboro by 29. So a little bit better competition than Tulsa. But again, nothing to really write home about. And Tulsa is averaging 90 points per game offensively. Kansas State averaging 96.7. Now, Tulsa giving up 69.7 points per game. Kansas State giving up 77 points per game for them in this one. Again, Kansas State getting 61% of ticket count, but it's only equating to 33% of the handle. For Kansas State, though, like we said, the big thing for them is they got the best player in college basketball as far as leading scorer from a season ago. And a lot of transfers coming in for Coach Tang. Now, they had to retool this whole thing and make it look completely different down to the studs, except for one returning starter. They're going to bring 17% of their minutes back. Obviously, 16 and 17 last year, 17 straight up and 17 and 16 ATS. But they do get PJ Haggerty over from Memphis, who was one of the nation's top scorers. He's a beast. Then they get David Costello, the sophomore. He's stepping up. He's their returning starter. So their backcourt should be really, really strong. They bring in Bashir Jr., one of the best shooters last year from Monmouth. They also have Nate Johnson, transfer from Akron, coming in. And then the 7-footer Buka and Kostic inside should really solidify that. Now, they have to shoot better from the 3, and they got to shoot better overall. Haggerty hopefully fixes that for K-State. But look, when I look at this, Tulsa, like I said, Tulsa hasn't been the most impressive team in the past couple of years, but they're off to a good start, 90 points per game. I can't look at that and downplay it. Again, I would lean taking points here, Tulsa plus 12.5. Not because, I mean, Kansas State's a much better team, but kind of like I gave out Wake Forest last week against Michigan, gave out I can't remember the other one, but it was a double digit. Oh, Georgia Tech against Georgia. We were getting 15.5 in that one. I think this Tulsa game matches up similar to that. Now, Manhattan can swallow people up. It's a tough environment to go in there and get a win, but I like Tulsa in this one. So again, I lean Tulsa plus the 12.5, and I lean to the way of Penn plus 5.5. NC State, remember I said this, NC State is a dangerous team in the ACC. Now, Will Wade, he's been able to recruit like a beast, no different here at NC State. They're laying 12.5 to VCU. Right now, 165.5 is the over-under. 55% of ticket count is equaling 90% of the handle to the over. 45% ticket count equaling 10% of the handle to the under. NC State's defense is going to be legit. I'm going to be really interested to see how they handle the Dukes of the world in the ACC. Now, VCU, all they do is retool and reload. Again, they should be at the top of the conference again. 60% ticket count equaling 71% of the money on the Wolfpack of NC State. 40% ticket count equaling 29% of the handle here on VCU. When you dive into the handicap of this, VCU, again, some of this dating back to last year, 1-5 ATS the last 6, 14-3 over their last 17, 7-1 straight up their last 8 on the road, 4-1-1 ATS their last 6 versus the ACC. Now, NC State, 4-1 both straight up and ATS in their last 5, and they're 5-0 ATS their last 5 home games. There is NC State. Again, when you dive into stats here to help you, as far as NC State goes, I think for them and Will Wade, the biggest thing, again, is offensively, they got a lot of athletic guys. Their defense is going to be really solid, but scoring the basketball, right? Kind of been the MO. McNeese State, LSU, places Will Wade's been. Sometimes they struggle to score the basketball. Now, VCU, 2-1 straight up, 1-1-1 ATS. NC State, 3-0 straight up and 3-0 ATS. These two teams have never played. VCU beat St. Peter's 78-61 last time out, lost to Utah State by 3, beat a bad Wagner team by 29. Now, NC State, on the other hand, they had a 46-point win over Greensboro, a 24-point win versus UAB, and then beat the brakes off of North Carolina Central by 48. So, again, playing really good basketball. If you look statistically, even though it's early in the season, VCU's averaging 86 points per game. NC State, 20 points better per game at 106. 71.7 is what VCU's defense is giving up. NC State, 66.7. And again, I think that 66.7, like I said, is just going to get better and better. I really like this NC State defense. I like what they bring to the table here. Now, again, we talked about it. VCU, they're retooled and reloaded. But Trey Holman for NC State really going to be what makes them go. He's a senior, comes over from Michigan State. Tom Izzo, very disciplined, right? They got Matt Abel, sharpshooter Paul McNeil. Then they got Arsenault from Houston. The transfer comes over. Darion Williams from Texas Tech. So those two from the forward position are going to be absolutely incredible. And then Copeland comes over with him from McNeese State. Again, I love this NC State team. I love what they're going to be able to do. However, if I'm playing this game, I'm going to lean VCU plus 12.5. Again, just a lean, not going crazy. But so far, these 3 games, I like the dogs here to cover and bark. Tulsa plus 12.5, Penn plus 5.5, VCU plus 12.5. Those are my leans as far as today goes. Now, going to hop into the Civil War, but it's not really a Civil War because Oregon State, they're not returning anybody to their lineup here for Oregon, just a team that's really changed what they look like under Coach Tingle here at Oregon State. But Oregon right now is laying 12. I still think laying 12. I still think that's a big number. However, Oregon, they're in that boat of one of the few teams returning more than a starter back, right? So Dana Altman, head coach, he's fantastic. We know that. They're returning 2 starters. 39% of their minutes comes from that. Jackson Shield and Biddle, they're gone. They're to the NBA draft. So they're going to have to lean on forward Kwame Evans, who came off the bench last year. Ohio State transfer Sean Stewart, and then his brother Miles, who transferred over from Howard. So they got the brothers there. Texas transfer Devin Pryor at the wing. He played 23 games for Texas last year. They also got the Elon transfer Simpkins, averaged 16.4 points per game for him last year. So he's going to be Sheltsted's running mate there in the backcourt. The Ducks, much better team than Oregon State here. Now, the fact that it's a rivalry as far as school does mean something. However, I would lay it here with Oregon or not. Again, I just think they're far superior than Oregon State. Oregon State's going to take them a while to get going. Now, both of these teams come in 3-0, but they're both 0-3 ATS. Oregon has beaten Oregon State, though, in 8 straight games. They've really dominated them from a head-to-head matchup. And again, a lot of that has to just do with superior talent over a long period of time here for Oregon. Oregon 2-4 ATS their last 6. Again, we talked about Oregon has won 8 straight games straight up against Oregon State, but Oregon State's covered 5 in a row. Oregon State, dating back to last year, just 1-4 ATS over their last 5. They've played to the over 16 of their last 20 games. Oregon, 12-2 straight up their last 14 games overall. If you dive in here, 57% of ticket count Oregon, 43% of ticket count Oregon State. As far as the money, 51% of money on the Beavers, 49% of the money on Oregon. You're over under 142.5, 89% of ticket count, 84% of the handle going over, 11% of ticket count, 16% of the handle going to the under in this game. Now, diving into some stats here real quick. We got Oregon State. They're only averaging 69.7 points per game. Oregon, not much better, 70 points per game. These two teams really comparable in that mark, both in the low 300s, near the bottom in college basketball. Oregon State's defense giving up 67.3 points per game. Oregon giving up 63.7. I had said, I want to retract what I just said. I had said Oregon 12, but there's a 12.5 here at MGM and a 12.5 at FanDuel. I'm going to take the dog again here. So Oregon State plus 12.5 is a lean. Penn State plus 5.5 is a lean. Tulsa plus 12.5 is a lean. And then Virginia Commonwealth plus 12.5. I'm also going to take them as a lean. I would also keep an eye out on Bucknell plus 16.5. There in that one, just a little throw out there. Don't have time to break it down, but I would look to them in that. One more game I want to break down. Loyola Marymount is going to UC Santa Barbara. Now, Marymount 5-0 straight up, 3-1 ATS. Santa Barbara 3-0 straight up, 1-1 ATS. Now, these two teams met last year in Loyola Marymount, a game in which Loyola Marymount won 60-58. Now it's going back to UC Santa Barbara for this one. UC Santa Barbara is laying 3. Now, Marymount, they're averaging 89.2 points per game. UC Santa Barbara, 15th best offense points per game in the country, 91.7. I want to get back to that in a second. Now, Loyola Marymount, 61.8 points per game given up defensively, 33rd best defense in the country. Loyola Marymount, brand new starting 5, no returning starters, really going to have to piece this thing together, and they're going to have to do it on the defensive end, which they did so far early on. Kudos to them. Now, Santa Barbara, one of the worst defenses, giving up 76 points per game is UC Santa Barbara. But when you look into this, the reason I wanted to touch on it again, Loyola Marymount, they're off to a good start, 5-0. Again, whole different team, whole different transfers coming in, new head coach. They're really having to retool this whole thing. But as I was doing this, I was putting some notes together, and UC Santa Barbara, for me, I had them ranked in my preseason top 25. They're a really good team. They're a team I like. Some people have them. Everywhere I've looked has them in their top 50. Now, the Gauchos favored to win that Big West, but it's the duo. Junior guard Jason Fontaine. He was the top player in the league last year. They got Aiden Mahaney to compare with him. He started at St. Mary's, went to UConn, right? And then they have a front line that can really rebound the basketball. Can UC Santa Barbara? So I say all this again. I know Loyola Marymount's defense has been stellar, one of the top in the country, like we spoke about just a second ago. But when you look at this, Loyola Marymount, they beat Troy by 11, they beat UTEP by 13, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Eastern Washington, and a Division II opponent. So I know they're 5-0, and I want to give them kudos because, again, new head coach, new everything. It's a retool. However, they just haven't played a ton of talent, right? They haven't played a ton of talent. And even though Santa Barbara beat San Jose State by 11, they beat Sacramento State by 5, I think those teams are very comparable to a Loyola Marymount. So when I say all that to say I like UC Santa Barbara tonight, but I don't want to lay the 3.5 there for it. What I want to do is I want to take UC Santa Barbara minus 188 on the money line, and I'm going to put them, even though I like Tulsa plus the 12.5 on the lean, I'm going to put them with Kansas State. And here's the reason why. I put them with K-State. gets that down to a 145, gets more of a swallowable bet there. So UC Santa Barbara, Kansas State money line parlay is the way I'm going to go. That's going to be my bet. Then I'll have some small leans to sprinkle a lot on. Again, these are quarter half units. Oregon State plus 12.5. I'm going to get down with that. I lean Tulsa plus 12.5. I lean Bucknell plus 16.5, even though we didn't touch on it. I lean VCU plus 12.5, and I lean Penn plus 5.5. Click that like, hit subscribe. Break the Board Sports, where we help you become a better handicapper. God bless and happy handicapping.